you've got to have the processes and procedures in place before you hire, before you partner, before you do anything with somebody else. You've got to have all that very well laid out in order to make sure that all the expectations are well defined.
Hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate you having me.
How are you doing on a fine Sunday?
Oh man, it's great. Wife's birthday party was yesterday, so I had a good time with that and kind of cleaning up and that kind of stuff afterwards.
Fantastic. And in terms of why I decided to bring you on, you've had a journey, a career journey that spans like multiple industries, and my podcast is about helping professionals overcome common career challenges. And one of the common career challenges that professionals face is transitioning into a new type of career, whether it's moving different industries or moving different roles. So you've had a couple pivots in your career, and I wanted to bring you on for you to share your experience with that and provide some guidance for people that are listening right now that are looking to make a career change. Uh,
Yeah,
so
happy to.
yeah, so in terms of starting the conversation off, uh, when we talked offline, you started in the Navy first. So tell me about how you got your start in the Navy.
Sure, absolutely. So I enlisted the Navy when I was 17 years old, right out of high school. Turned 18 in boot camp, and that was not a fun choice there. But basically, there was nothing to do in my little bitty hometown in Alabama. The best job was working at the peanut mill, and not knocking anybody that's working at a peanut mill, but that just wasn't what I wanted to do. So I knew I had to do something to get out, and knew I didn't have the discipline to go to college. Had a small little scholarship for photography, but knew that wasn't going to get me through college. And even if I could get in and pay for college, I knew I wasn't going to make it. Just I didn't have the discipline to do it. So the military seemed like the smart way to go. So then it comes down to, hey, which service do you want to go into? And I interviewed all four services at the time, and Navy seemed to be the one that was the best fit for me.
You bring up a good point in terms of like going to school. You realize that you weren't disciplined enough to do the schooling part. A lot of parents always encourage their kids to go to school, but that might not be the best option just based off their um, what their strengths are. So, what is your opinion about that when it comes to like helping their children give them more guidance in terms of finding a proper direction than just throwing you're done high school, you gotta go university, you gotta go to college.
Yeah. So it took me, and I had this exact same conversation with my daughter a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. She's 19, graduated about a year ago, and but it took me 9 years to get a 4 year degree. So it's not for everybody right then. Do I think you probably should have a degree? Most likely, yes, especially if you've got the ability, the resources to get it. Um, but it's right out of high school. You may not have the time, you may not have the money, you may not have the ability to do that based on what your family situation is or your personal situation. So it's if you can, you do it, but if you can't, I get it.
All right. So, what are some alternative options that you said? Joining the military was one option. What would be other options for someone listening right now that don't think that going back to school is the right route?
I mean, I think you default to what is it that you enjoy, and then can you monetize what it is that you enjoy. My second, maybe it's a good segue into that. My second thing that I did was my second career was buying and selling old coins, or the technical term is numismatist. So while I was active duty Navy, one of my buddies that sat next to me was a big coin collector, and I collected coins way back in the day, back with my grandpa, Buffalo nickels and stuff like that, getting around change. But then cars and girls got to be interesting, so coins went by the wayside, and then cars and girls got to be paid in the butt, so coins came back. So me and my buddy Bill started buying and selling old coins just out of our house. Put a little small ad in the newspaper, so I'm dating myself, and we started buying coins, and going to shows and selling them and trying to sell them online. And it got to the point where we probably need to open up a shop. So we opened up a coin shop, and started, realized all the logistical challenges of that, and then grew that into a chain of three shops. So we had a chain of three retail coin establishments. Eventually, my partner bought me out, But finding something that you enjoy that you can make money at, I think is key.
So you started finding an interest in coins during your time in Navy. Is that what you said earlier?
Well, I've enjoyed them as a kid, but then then the enjoyment came back later.
Got it. All right. And you were in the Navy for 20 years.
Yep.
Usually, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but usually if someone stays in the Navy that long, they tend to go all the way till retirement, right? But for you, what this made you decide that you wanted to branch out of the Navy and do something else?
So I did retire from the Navy, so I do get a retirement check from the Department of Defense every month, which is nice because it pays a good chunk of the bills. Um, the coins started up while I was still active duty, um, probably 6 or 7 years prior to retirement. So I had a good um, established income stream from that, which made it very comfortable for me whenever I was ready to retire from the military. I did not have to go find another job in the engineering field, which is what I worked in, and I was tired of engineering. 20 years of anything is too long for somebody, at least for me. So I was ready to do something different.
And then you said like as a kid you were interested in coins, and then the interest came back as you got older, like during active duty in the Navy, and then once you retired, then you started to like start your own coin shop. You said 3 locations, right?
Correct, exactly 3 locations.
Okay, so for someone who wants to like dive into a passion, a deeper passion, or uh, rekindle a passion in their childhood, what is some business advice that you provide there? Because again, there's difference between liking something as a kid and actually turning into a business. For example, like if you are into painting, uh, painting on the side as a hobby is a lot different than owning a painting business, whether it's a paint shop, a paint lounge, or a paint store. So, what are your advice on that?
So obviously, it has to be something that does have some monetary potential there, right? Yeah, like you said, not everybody's going to be able to sell paintings for a tremendous amount of money. Um, it's good. So it's got to be something that's monetizable, and I think more important, or just as important, is you've got to decide and put in the discipline to become the best possible person that for that, for whatever it is. So like whenever someone would walk into the coin shop to talk to me about coins, I inherited all these coins from grandpa. Grandpa passed away 10 years ago. We found the shoebox. There wasn't anything in that box that I couldn't talk intelligently about because I put in the time, the effort, the hours, the resources, the study, and the classes and the books in order to be the expert on it. Now, of course, you do that with a humble mindset of, hey, there's always more to learn. But whenever you're dealing with a client, you've got to show them that you're sharp as a tack and you know what you're talking about. Um, and the only way you do that is by really putting in the hours and the effort to get that level of knowledge to where you can provide that service to a person that really needs it.
So in terms of the coin business, right? Like you used to collect coins when you're a kid, and then you're trying to turn it into a business, and you have to like evaluate the value of coins. So how did you start building up that skill set so you know what the valuation is of these coins that you're seeking or selling, so to speak?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of several things. One is the books, right? There's a lot of references out there that have been published by people that are way smarter than me that talk about coins. Then there's keeping track of the market, and the market is, hey, what are they actually selling for online? And you could look at something online and, oh, this coin's worth $1 million. No, it's the coin shop was a continual management disappointment. Everybody thought they had the next winning lotto ticket in their pocket when they walked in. So it's a matter of understanding what's the true market value of that coin or whatever it is that you're selling, right? I mean, if you're selling hot dogs, you're selling mortgages, you're selling real estate, you're selling stamps, you're selling whatever, you're selling crypto, whatever it is that you're selling, you've got to understand what the true market value is what two people get together, what's one willing to sell for, what's one person willing to buy for, not just what some random website said something has is value. So it's books. It's getting into the market and it's doing a significant amount of research to really grasp the whole concept of whatever the industry is.
And how many hours did you dive into the research and knowledge obtainment before you felt confident enough to try to start making a business out of coins?
So I don't know that we were anywhere near confident enough to do. Whenever we started, it was one of those where, okay, well, let's figure out what we can do, and then after a bazillion mistakes, then you start really getting confident. I say everything I know, I've learned one mistake at a time, whether it's my mistakes mostly or by someone else's other's mistakes. So I don't know that I could ever say I was truly confident. But you got to start somewhere. And as long as you've got a good heart, you're in it for the right reasons. You'll be fine.
Yeah, again, I think one of the common things that people do is they're trying to achieve perfectionism before they actually start implementing, right? One of the common sayings is that no one rewards you for being master class ready, right? So, what is some advice that you can give in terms of some people that are thinking about this idea? They've done a bit of research, but they're still not confident in themselves to want to take that leap.
You got to understand yourself. Are you confident enough of your abilities? Are you going to be doing the right thing by people, and do you understand the potential pitfalls for whatever it is? So for like coins, to relate to coins, I remember a $3,000 mistake where I bought a couple coins that were counterfeit. They were gold coins. They were real gold, but they were counterfeit. So the value of the coins were simply the gold intrinsic value, no collector value whatsoever. But I've paid the person based on a percentage based on the collector value, and lost my butt on it. I lost $3,000, $4,000. I don't remember exactly how much, but that really stung. So at that point, that motivated me to go buy another book and become, and go get amazingly smart on that aspect of things.
Going back to the perfectionism part about like because you had that failure so to speak where you lost $3,000. A lot of people are afraid to fail, so people tend to not want to try new things because the rate of failure is a lot higher doing something that you're not familiar with compared to being comfortable staying in your comfort zone. So how have you overcome failures such as this to make you stronger in the long run?
Personally, how I overcome failure is throwing out the pros and cons on a piece of paper and figuring out, hey, is the risk worth the reward, right? Not everybody can do that. There is, if as you mentioned, that there's lots of people listening that may not be able to do that, or just are stuck or afraid. And I'll say, if you're truly that afraid, maybe you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Maybe you shouldn't, step out on your own. Maybe you should stay an employee. But if you're willing to make those sacrifices, I don't know who said the quote, but I love it. It's, an entrepreneur is someone willing to work 80 hours a week for themselves before they work 40 hours from somebody else. So if you've got the mentality that you're willing to bust your butt, you're willing to put in the hard work more than anybody else in that field that you're interested in, then yeah, go for it. It's going to work out. If you're not that guy, if you're gonna, if you get smacked on the knuckles by a ruler and you're like, okay, well, I'm never going to do that again. Well, then that's probably not. It's probably not your bailiwick, right? Go be a good employee, and go do good things somewhere else.
Yeah, like social media has really mass marketed entrepreneurship. How like if you're an employee, then you're not doing too well, right? Like you're considered a failure in society, but that's not really the case. Again, not everybody can be an entrepreneur because some people are just not that are not like huge risk takers. So for someone who realizes that it might not be for them, but then they feel like stuck as an employee, what's your thoughts on that? Is it more about like retraining your mindset to find out what are other things that you could do to maybe balance yourself as an employee? For example, maybe doing a side hustle, so at least you're still doing like different passion projects while you're having a steady income, whether it's weekly or biweekly.
Yeah, I would offer that the question, the mentality there is they're not fulfilled in something. So whether it's they're not fulfilled with the work they're doing, or maybe they're not doing maybe they're not doing something productive for society. Like they're not doing something for a charity. They're not doing something for their family. Maybe they're not doing what they should be doing for their own health. Maybe they're not doing what they should be doing for their own family. Maybe they're not doing what they should be for for whatever organization they um, find appealing to them. Like I'm involved with two different veteran centric charities. Maybe they're not doing what they really should be doing as an employee. So if they're not fulfilled, I would say look internal first to see what it is that you're really not fulfilled in. And it's maybe entrepreneurship. It maybe just want to make more money. It may just be that you're not doing what you probably ought to be doing for your own responsibilities that you currently have.
Going back to your coin shop, you were able to expand to three shops. So can you walk us through how you made the decision to scale and grow your business that way, compared to some people might just be just happy with one shop, compared to like trying to like expand and have multiple locations?
Yeah, I think on growth, growth is you have to follow demand. So I was getting a lot of business from a different town that was about a 2 hour away, and I was driving to that town to meet with clients, and most of the business was buying coins throughout a month, and then you sell some online. In your retail presence, then you would go to trade shows. I would go to coin shows all over the country, mostly the southeast, but all over the country. And I was going to this particular town over and over and over again and making really, really nice, buying nice quality inventory from individuals in that town. So I'm like, it's probably time to go put a retail presence in that location in order um, to meet the demand that I'm getting from that. So we did that. We did that for a year, and they were like, "Well, all right." So we figured out how to run another business, which is doubling your locations is probably 8 times the amount of effort that takes us. It's not a linear relationship whatsoever. And after we figured that out, we had licked a lot of wounds in that first year. We're like, okay, we critically analyzed, self-analyzed, and we're like, okay, well, we screwed this up, this up, this up. Um, let's take a look at this other location and um, possibly expand there. So we started analyzing, the demand that we were getting from that particular location, and it made sense. We threw out another location, and we really started analyzing it on the lessons learned from the first two expansions. We're like, no, this if we go there, it's going to be, we don't think we have a high chance of success there. So it's figuring out what you're doing and then writing down your lessons learned, critiquing, hey, we screwed this up. How do we screw it up? What could we have done better? What should we have done smarter? What are we going to do to prevent that from happening again? As you're thinking about doing those expansions.
You mentioned previously that you started this coin business with a partner. What made you decide to choose a partner instead of just going it on your own?
I didn't have anywhere near the knowledge. My partner Bill was significantly smarter than I was in the coin world, but Bill did not have much business acumen whatsoever. And at that point in my life, I had already owned a couple other businesses, and I had a good bit of money saved up. And this was 2004, 2005, so it's a while back. Um, I had owned some other businesses with other people, so I was talking to Bill about what he was doing, and he's like, "Well, yeah, I'd like to do this as a business, but I don't know anything about business. I don't have anything saved up." I'm like, "Well, how about I be the business guy, you be the technical guy, and we figure it out." And we operated on a handshake for 15 years, and we're still buddies. He ended up buying me out due to some other directions I wanted to go, but we're still I still consider him a very very close friend, and we operated everything off a handshake. And not I'm not recommending you do that, but it worked for me.
So if someone were supposed to go, if someone decided to go to the partner route, how do you find a good partner? Like, what are some traits that you should look for?
You have to look for somebody that has the same morals that you do. I mean, that's the very first thing is the integrity and morals of it. Is there any doubt in your mind that this person, this potential partner, is not going to be the same, operate from the same center as you do? And if the answer is the answer, if you can't definitively say 100% yes, that person is going to be that way, then run fast, far away from that. Right now I own a restaurant with my wife, and we've had a couple of people approach us, to become partners in it. And every time we do that, we sit down with them. There's something off. There's something that doesn't quite work right, or we start pulling the string on their background, and we're like, no, it's probably not the best option for us. If you want to buy us out, great, but I don't think we want to do a partnership with you.
The one thing you mentioned about your partner Bill is that you were the business person and Bill was the technical guy. I think one of the common examples of a strong partnership is you have different fields of expertise, so you don't really overlap with each other. I find that if there's two business people or two technical people, there tends to be more clash in thoughts because they both think that they're the expert.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And you've got to lay out those due responsibilities. You I love that book called E Myth Revisited. I don't know if you've heard it before. It's a great book. I wish I'd read that thing 20 something years ago. It's why small businesses fail, and it just goes through. You've got to have the processes and procedures in place before you hire, before you partner, before you do anything with somebody else. You've got to have all that very well laid out in order to make sure that all the expectations are well defined, and there's no room for just if there's going to be disappointments because someone failed to meet their agreed upon standard.
When it comes to going from Navy to corporate or owning a business in the coin space, what are some transferable skills that you developed in the Navy that made you be stronger when you started your career in the coin business?
The Navy really gave me a strong technical background, which and that you had to define everything the way it was going to be, the way it should be, and how to verify that it is as it is. And so my background, I was a started off as an electrician, nuclear electrician in the Navy, and then became an officer. And I basically did regulatory oversight kind of thing. So whenever I was able to translate those skills from the military into, I think, whatever I want to go into. And I think that my businesses that I've had thus far have been very successful because of that.
Great. And speaking of moving into a different direction, because you said like Bill bought you out because you want to move into a different direction. I'm assuming that's when you started to get into mortgages. So how did you get into this new industry in the mortgage space?
I think getting into any new thing is purely an accident. So if we go even back before coins, I actually had my real estate license for a couple years. I got it because of divorce and I was bored because I didn't have my kids all the time. So I'm like, I need something to fill my time. So I'm like, I was thinking about getting back into real estate um, for a reason not to bore you or your client or your listeners with, but I was thinking about getting back into real estate. But I'm like, no, I don't want to get in my car and drive around all weekend and show people houses. So I was like, maybe I'll get into mortgages. So I called up my old mortgage guy from way back when, Wade, and said, hey, I'm thinking about getting into mortgages. What do you think? And he remembered I hustled and all stuff. He said, well, come down to the office and take a look at what we do. And he hired me, and I enjoyed working for Wade for 3 years. And then in South Carolina, where I live, you have to be licensed loan originator for 3 years before you open up your own company. So at my 3 year 1 day period, I applied to open up my own mortgage company here.
All right. In terms of the real estate aspect, so I'm in Canada. I'm not sure if it's different in the U.S. when it comes to commissions. Real estates here, the commissions are a lot higher compared to mortgages. So, what made you decide that yes, mortgages do pay less, but again, there's less traveling compared to real estate where you're showing houses, but you get more commission from the house sale?
So here in America, I think you could make the argument that mortgages pay less, but you could also make make the argument that mortgages pay more. Depends on the corporate structure. Like whenever I was working for somebody else, then yeah, I made a whole lot less. I work for myself. I get all the commission on the deal. So and then there's realtors that I'll do a deal with, and I see what the realtor commission is, and I make more money per deal on that. But there's also times where I'll do a deal for near about free because I know I'm going to get more referral business out of that. So it's I'm not worried about the dollar per deal. I'm worried about, hey, is a viable business process, and is it going to build and grow upon itself?
Got it. So you learn the ropes working under somebody else as a mortgage agent before you start your own mortgage company, and then that's when you get like pretty much all the commission, right? And then
Yeah.
work the deals that you think are suitable for you.
Mhm.
All right. And what was the difference between like the coin business and the mortgage business that you learned like right off the bat?
The sales cycle. So the first thing I realized is, hey, real estate or mortgages, both are not a one time transaction. One telephone call or one in-person handshake meeting transaction. A mortgage, the real estate mortgage industry is a 90-day cycle on the short end. And if someone could take 6 months or a year from the time you have the first conversation with them until they actually close on their deal, and then you obviously don't want them to forget about you. So it's keeping that relationship with them post closing. Birthdays, anniversaries, loan anniversaries, that type of stuff, so that way you're front of mind or top of mind for them whenever they do hear of somebody that wants to buy or refi, or if they want to sell and buy or refi. So it's a much different relationship business.
Speaking of sales cycles, when someone starts a uh, mortgages, real estate, or any type of long sales cycle of business, for example, like SaaS companies, if you're trying to sell like your SaaS product to a large corporation, the sales cycle does take a long time. So if someone's starting off, they're not making anything, if at all. Like I'm assuming for like as a real estate agent or mortgage agent that you don't have a base salary, right? Because you
No.
work based off like the brokerage or under a mortgage company, right? So how do you weather the storm for the first, let's say, 3 to 6 months when you know that there's not a lot of money coming in because of the long sales cycle?
So that's the discussion I have with some loan officers that want to come work for me. And I've told loan officers, hey, I'm probably not some loan officers I've told, hey, I'm probably not the best option for you. In here in America, there are places that will give you a base salary, and you'll make a very, very small commission. So like you could go work for, a Wells Fargo or some brick and mortar, and you'll have a small base salary, you'll have benefits, and you'll have a desk, and you'll have walk-in clients, and maybe you make an extra $500 per deal or something, and that's all fine and dandy. And that's not a bad way to start, honestly. Um, I think you're starting somewhere. You've got to have, no matter what industry you get into, whether it's mortgages, whether it's selling insurance, whether it's selling securities, whether it's selling, SaaS, whatever it is, you've got to have, you got to have some place that's going to teach you, and you got to have some place that's going to provide you leads. And in the beginning, because you're just not going to have that many people in your sphere of influence that want to buy that product. Or even if you do have enough people in your sphere of influence that want and need that product, they may not want to buy it from you because they don't know you in that professional manner and trust you to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars with you, if they just don't have that mentality of you. So you've got to have, to start off, you've got to have, the support system of training and of lead providing.
Right now, as you know, societies has a lot of the instant gratification, right? So when it comes to making career pivots, they want to make more or the same that they are in the current field. You obviously, once you got bought out, you had to start from scratch as a mortgage agent, right? And some people don't really want to start from scratch in regards to um, take a step back from what they were doing before. So, what is your advice when it comes to realizing that if you want to do something out of the ordinary when it comes to like changing to a different field or space, and you do have to start over at a lower salary? What's your advice in terms of like weathering the storm and the learning curves?
I mean, obviously, you have to have, a cushion. You got to have, you figure out what the industry average is for when you get to start making money. Like I tell everybody that's going to come work for me, it's a 90 day, thing. You're not going to get your first paycheck for at least 3 months. So you better have at least 3 months savings. And I'd recommend double that, because you may not be as good as you think you're going to be, or the market can change. The market has changed significantly over the last 2 years. So people that got in the last year, they may be struggling a lot more than somebody that was in the same point in their career 4 years ago or 7 years ago. Um, and everything's getting more competitive everywhere across America because the population's, larger. People are getting smarter. AI is out there making it easier for people to do whatever it is they want to do. So you've got to you've got to way overestimate what it is that you need to do, and you've got to work way harder than you think you need to in order to be successful in whatever it is you're going to do.
Speaking of changing market conditions, you mentioned a good point about AI. I believe like there's some companies in the U.S. where you don't even need a real estate agent, right? Is Zillow one of them? Whereas like you don't need a real estate agent, you actually like list your house and work without an agent. Is that one of the examples?
So Zillow does make it very easy for sale by owner stuff to get where it is. There's for sale by owner companies. I've bought and sold real estate with real estate agents, and I've bought and sold real estate without real estate agents. It really depends on your skill set and the complexity of the deal. Like if whenever I do a lot of real estate deals as a mortgage guy, so I feel very comfortable. And I see some stupid agents as well. So I'm like, I would, why do I need to pay an agent? But like, if the deal is really complex, an agent's worth their weight in gold. So it really depends on the person's skill and the complexity of the deal.
So, as a follow up question, how can someone adapt to changing conditions? Because you said like the mortgage business has changed in the last couple of years, whether it's like the recession, inflation, or just more or AI or different like tools or more competition, more certified mortgage agents. So, how can one adapt to change properly so they can still stay and maintain their market share?
Sure. So you got to, the first thing is getting signed up with every single publication or periodical that's in your industry, so you understand what's going on. I probably get 7 or 8 different emails a day, and I read most of them that are mortgage and housing related, like Housing Wire, National Mortgage Professionals America, good industry specific things. So whatever industry you're in, there's going to be some trade group or several trade groups or several companies that are selling subscriptions to things that provide good data of what's going on. And then second thing is developing a network of peers that are smart, professional, sharp, like-minded individuals, some that are more further along in the career than you, and some that are not as polished or refined or as experienced as you, and having that group of individuals that you talk to on a routine basis. And the third thing is going to trade shows. I go to several trade shows a year. I've got to the point where I'm a speaker, I'm a teacher on the circuit in several trade shows. I'll be in September. I'll be in Denver, Colorado, teaching at a mortgage conference, and I'll be teaching mortgage and realtors on processes and planning your day and that kind of stuff. So it's a combination of periodicals, peers, and progression in trade shows.
Speaking of peers, when someone starts off in a new career, they'll have to build up the network again, right? Because like if they're in an old field, they've networked with people that, or they have a network of people in their old field. But when it comes to a new field, they might not know as many people. So, what's your advice in regards to finding the right mentors or the right support group to help you in the transition in this new career, whether it's changing industries or changing roles?
I mean, you'll know the right mentor. A couple minutes after you meet him. It's someone that's got a teacher's heart and as successful and wants to be helpful. There's coaches out there, and I've used many coaches over the years, and I've spent anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month on coaches, and every one of them was great. If you get into the coaching aspect, want to utilize coaches, you got to define what it is that you're looking to improve upon, and then find and interview coaches that and ask them how they're going to help you with whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Mentors would generally be somebody that's free. A coach is somebody that you're paying, and then also I really believe that you don't understand something till you give it away. So finding other people that know less than you and you teaching them, guiding them, helping them is going to make you a better person, better student, better teacher as well.
So, speaking of coaches, there are a lot of coaches out there. So, I'm in the career space, and there's a lot of career coaches. So, what is your advice in regards to like picking the right coach? Because not all coaches are good. There's actually a lot of bad coaches, right? So how do you vet the right ones to ensure that you are going to get your money's worth? Like for you, you've already said that every coach that you've worked with and paid for has helped your business or career. So how can people also be able to do that with their own coaching endeavors? Because again, coaching, as you said, is not a cheap investment. It's like you said already. It costs you about like 1 to 2 grand a month, and that could be a lot of money for someone that's starting off in their new career and not making that much. So, what's your advice in terms of like find the right coach for them in order to accelerate their learning curve and get more success faster?
Yeah, so you're when you're starting off, you're not going to be able to afford a coach. So getting a networking group is probably a good option on that. Like I'm in BNI and I have been for years, and my BNI group, I've got people from all different types of industries, and we bounce things off each other all the time. We get together for coffee and developing friends. Like I even have coffee once a month with a couple of my competitors here that will sit down and just share hey, what's going on with you, how's the family, and then hey, I had this loan that was really tough, or hey, I learned this new thing, I had this deal that was going south, I figured this out. Getting even with your competitors, getting chummy and becoming buddies with them, I think is important. But interviewing that coach, if you're going to get into coaching, interviewing that coach, but you got to understand exactly what you want to accomplish prior to it. So, like my first coach was all about um, all about production, and it was, hey, what are the different realms of of referral sources and how to manage those relationships with those referral sources. And then one coach was about whenever I started my own company, it was about establishing the processes and procedures to make sure that my loans were going through the pipeline in the right fashion. And then, like the most recent coach that I had, her name was Christine. She had started up, I want to say, 50 different branches for Annie Mac. I mean, she was just an amazing. Still, I say it was. She's an amazing woman, amazing producer, amazing coach. But I wanted to grow my company and start treating it like a branch at a bank, and so I could provide a better environment or better culture for the salespeople, the loan officers that trusted me to work for me. So I, hired her to help me to be the better leader for loan officers at my company. So it really depends on where you're at in your career, and your company's progression.
So when it comes to people working under you, I'm assuming not everybody had previous like mortgage or real estate experience, and they're looking to pivot into the field of mortgages. How do you like interview or select the right type of person when they don't have the industry experience and this is their first time trying to get exposure in that field?
Sure. So if it's a non-sales role, so I would call it production or fulfillment department, I'm looking at people that are can follow directions and are team players. So I have whenever before I even interview someone, I've got a YouTube video that they watch, that gives them tasks. So I give them verbal tasks, and it's basically very simple resume type stuff. And if they can perform those verbal tasks, then I'll interview them, and most likely I'll hire them. But so many people either screw up the task or don't do the stuff. I know that either they can't follow directions well, or they don't have a level of care enough to follow directions well, whatever. So that weeds out people. The production, the fulfillment part. From the sales side, it's all about their heart. I've had even 2 weeks ago, I had somebody who wanted to come work for me, big producer. Um, I would have made a lot of money from him coming over to the company, but the guy was a jerk. I'm like, my company culture matters more than making an extra $7,000 from your employment here. If someone's not going to have that teacher heart, even with the processors, I don't want that company climate in my office. So it's finding someone that's going to fit well. A lot of times, what we'll do is we'll have a company lunch. So we do company lunches pretty routinely. And if someone's thinking about coming over, I'm like, hey, we're going to have a lunch, and we'll have sandwiches and chips, and it's nothing fancy whatsoever. Sitting around the conference table, and invite a potential employee and watch how they interact with other employees, and watch how the employees interact with them, and if it's the oil and vinegar, then no, they're not going to get hired. If they fit in well, obviously it's going to be a good environment. I also like to ask, on every job interview, tell me about your childhood. And I don't really care what the answer is. They had a horrible childhood, they had an amazing childhood. I want to know. I want to see how they talk about their childhood. So if they grew up poor, like I grew up really poor, if they grew up poor and they're like, yeah, we didn't have anything, we didn't have two nickels to rub together, but man, my mom tried hard. She tried, she got us whatever she could. She worked two jobs, whatever. I know that person's going to be a good team player. If they had a horrible childhood and they still talk horrible about their childhood, then obviously they still have a lot of things to go through. They're probably great people, but they're just not in the position in their season where I want to be around that. If they had a great childhood, and they talk poorly about, oh yeah, my dad was rich, but we had to work hard for everything. Well, I don't want that person around. So it's understanding where that person is in life.
Yeah, you made a good point about like the importance of culture fit. A lot of professionals think that when they go into interview, it's all about their skill set and their experience. But again, if at the end of the day, like if they hire you, they have to work with you every day, and if you don't gel well with the team, it's not going to be a good fit. But again, a lot of professionals forget about the human aspect of the interview process, and they just try to sell their skill set and experience.
Yeah, you're gonna interact more with them than you do your spouse, probably. Based on going to sleep and what time you get home and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to be around that negativity.
So for someone who's like looking to like move industries, and one of the things that I always suggest is having informational interviews with people in the industry or roles that you want. So if someone were to reach out to you and ask you about the mortgage industry, what type of questions would you want them to ask you so they are able to make an informed decision with their career?
Yeah, man. Obviously, they should be asking, hey, what's your day to day look like? What's your, what's the income potential? And say, hey, I've read it online, but what can I really earn? What does it take to really be a top performer? And I tell people, hey, you got to be good at numbers. You got to be good with people. If you're not good at both of those, this is not the industry for you. But understanding what the day to day process looks like for whatever it is you're going to go into, what's the earning potential? If you're asking, hey, what are the qualifications? You haven't done enough research. You need to ask the strategic stuff, not the stuff you could find on Google.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's one of those things. Like if you can find the answer on Google, it's not a good question. That's what I always say.
Yep, exactly. So, the Navy SEALs are the same way. I mean, if the Navy SEALs have an amazing website that explains everything that you need to become a SEAL. And if you go call up a SEAL and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about," and they'll answer your call. I mean, and then they'll help. But if you start asking the stuff on their website, they're like, "Bro, you're wasting my time. Go do some research. You can come back when you're ready."
Yeah, 100%. Like a lack of research is a lack of preparation.
Mhm.
And you started a coin business. You started a mortgage company. They both had challenges. So, what were some of the different challenges when it comes to starting up a coin business and starting up a mortgage company?
I mean, getting your name out there is the first thing that's difficult, right? If you don't have clients, you don't have business. But the temper that the temperament to that is you can't outsell fulfillment, and I say that all the time in the office. Like I can't, I could go produce, another 50 loans, or if I I'm not saying I can, if I produce an extra 50 loans in the next week and a half, we would choke. I don't have the ability to add 50 loans to my pipeline right now based on staffing. So if I go hire somebody that's going to be a producer, I've got to be able to bring in support for that. So it's a double edged sword. Whenever you're getting to a new industry or a new business or whatever, or opening up your own business in something you've already been in, is understanding what the requirements are to fulfill the promise that you're going to give to that client, and then building the processes and procedures to ensure that you can deliver that. And then once you have that baseline, then go out and do the marketing, do the SEO, do the click pay per click, do the trade shows, do the door hangers, do whatever it is that you think you need to do to get business. But you don't do that until you have the ability to provide whatever it is.
Great. Uh, Jason, really appreciate you taking the time to share your career story when it comes to like making career pivots multiple times throughout your career. So I like to end my podcast with you with one last question that I ask all my guests at the end. So my podcast is about helping professionals overcome career challenges, what I said earlier. So for you, throughout your career in the Navy, uh, in the coin business, and in the mortgage company that you're currently running, what was one major challenge that you had to go through, like a common challenge throughout your career that you had to overcome to get to where you are today?
Well, it's getting out of my own way and trusting people, right? If someone can do the job as 80% as as good as you can, let them do it. There's no way you can do everything. If you try to do everything, you're gonna suck. Um, and I've sucked a lot throughout all my careers. And until you get the point where you can trust people that work for you, that trust you, um, then you're at that point you can be successful. But you've got to learn how to trust people. And for me, it was making sure they were educated and they were provide the tools to accomplish whatever it is, whatever task I needed them to accomplish.
Yeah, I think one of the toughest things is delegating, right? Like some people tend to be micromanager. They want to like do everything themselves, so they don't trust people to do it for them. But again, there's only so many hours in the day, and if you're focusing on like administrative stuff, you can't really be the CEO. Like you, the saying is like, how can you be the CEO when you're acting like the administrator?
So I split up my day into thirds. Um, since you said CEO, I call it CEO time. So it's working on your business. So working on your business, working for your business, working in your business. So like the very first beginning of the day is doing stuff that only a CEO would do. So like from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. is CEO time. From 9 a.m. till about 1 p.m. is working for my business, which is generating sales, generating revenue, and then from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. is working in my business, which is taking care of loans, taking care of issues, taking care of employee stuff, that kind of stuff.
Great. And How can people learn more about what you do, and if they want to reach out when it comes to like mortgages, how can they reach out to learn more about your services?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not licensed in every state, but I know somebody that is, and I don't get any type of referral fees. But if you want to give me a call, super easy. Phone number is area code 843 low rate. Super easy phone number 843 low rate. My email is jason@homeloansinc.com. Jason@homeloansinc.com. Can't believe that website was available for me. But super easy to get a hold of me. I try to be as responsive as possible. Um, Call me, email me, text me, find me on Facebook, whatever, LinkedIn, whatever.
Appreciate it. Okay, again, thank you so much for your time and your insights in career pivots, and I hope that people who are listening to this episode will get some direction in terms of how they can move forward in their career.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Max.
Thank you so much for watching. For more content on careers, job search, and self-improvement, make sure to hit that subscribe button.